glad you can make it. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. If I start mumbling or talking soft, just let me know. Appreciate you coming tonight. Some of you heard some of this before. I'll try to mix it up a little bit. We gave you a handout that's a little bit different, but we'll try to hit pretty close to the same things, but it might be some of the same. At the end, we'll give you plenty of time for questions and comments. Okay? All we'll do at the end is we'll say, hey, if you have a question, just tell us it's a question. If you have a comment, just tell us it's a comment, and then we'll let you talk. If it's a comment, we won't answer back. If it's a question, we'll try to answer that as best as we can for you, is what we hope to do. A little bit on that, we'll go ahead and get started on a few things. Most of this will go along with your handout that you have. I do have tonight in about 25 minutes, when it gets to finances, I'm going to have Mr. John Hass right here. He's going to talk a little bit on finance. He's our financial advisor. He's been very, very helpful in this process as far as finding the best ways that we can get the most for our money. Well, right away, I had some concerns when we were looking at it. We'll talk about it more on the levy, all of those things. John is a local taxpayer, local person, has interest just like we all do in keeping our taxes as close to where they are as possible. He'll talk about that a little bit, so I'm glad John's here. You can have those questions for him. On money and priorities, what we did, okay, that was a little bit different. We hired an architect firm called Insight Design Studio to come in and do a facility assessment with our staff, board, some students, some community members, all of that. And then they put together what was talked about as far as possible needs, wants, all of that. And they put together a huge list of everything for the board to take a look at, and then for everybody to prioritize to see what was important to the majority. And then we tried to take that down from there. Okay, when they first came in with it, they basically, I call it kind of a Walmart list, where you go to Walmart, they list everything for you, but you don't buy it all. Okay, their original thing to bring us back to where we were, as far as like the place would be brand new all the way around, they wanted $37 million is what they said it would take to do that. The board instantly knew, well, that isn't going to happen. That doesn't interest us. That's not part of it. Then they broke down each item of where it could be at as far as what each thing would cost so we could prioritize it. Okay, then the board had to take a look, okay, here's some of our priorities. And we'll talk about those priorities in a second. I do want to show you something different here. Excuse me, I'll jump to a different one. I want to talk about apples and oranges for a little bit. One of the things that comes up is if you were involved in the bond issue 2 years ago. You can say, well, this seems like the exact same thing to me. Seems like everything's the same. Money's close. In fact, this one's a little bit higher, that part. Okay, what we did different is we did do the assessment and went through and got people's opinion. Okay, some things did change. The focus really became on this safety, security, and a couple other things as far as renovation when it came to the high school. Okay? So that was where it was a little bit different. The other thing that kind of, the first time some people were concerned about was there was a student support student services building that was going to be in there. Many people just flat out called it a new superintendent's office. Okay? That's not in this one. No plan for that. I like my office that I'm currently in. So there's no plan there on that part. So that part's not in there. Okay? As far as how we're looking at it, we have some different things, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. But it's looking at our number one priority is, first of all, safe and secure entrances. Okay? At our buildings. And some of you might say, what does that mean? Well, currently, if you go to our building and you want to get in, you're going to buzz in. And then they're going to let you in. You say, well, that sounds pretty secure. Okay, as of now, wherever you go in any of those buildings, you'll have a choice to either right away go left or right and go right into the buildings before you get to the office. We don't want you to do that. Most people don't do that. But that's been a concern for us. So what we're looking at is doing is adding safe and secure entrances at all the buildings. So that would be 3 at the elementary. You say, why 3 at the elementary? 1 at the primary, 1 at Kids Club, 1 at the intermediate school. Okay? When they originally came to us and they said, well, here's what the amount of money that's going to cost you, it was a lot. And it's, well, I go, you're kind of misunderstanding what we want. Okay? What they were trying to do was basically add on to the front of the building. They're architects. That's what they're going to do. That's not what we were after. We just wanted so you're right into the office. So they went back, and basically what it'll be corridors or doors that are locked to the sides when you walk in, so then you're forced to go right into the office. It's how it's set up. I think their rough estimate around that was like a 1.3, 1.4 million to do all 5. The original one was close to 3 million or a little more to add on to the front, change the office, that type of thing. That wasn't that important to the board. It didn't seem that important to the people who were asked. Okay, so that was one of our first things, safe and secure all 5 buildings. Next thing that came up a lot was at the elementary, this was actually the number one concern of everybody, was the playground. And the safety of it, the security of it, as far as and I know we all grew up in gravel or rocks. Most of us had dirt. Then we had rocks. Then we had gravel. Then we had wood. Then we had crumb rubber, right? Okay, that was going to fix everything. And then now we're looking at having kind of a poured surface like turf, that type of thing that would have a good fall rate. Okay, the city has talked to us about working with us on the playground with the equipment. Our main focus is to make it ADA and make it so kids have a safe place to run and it's not ruining all their stuff all the time. So that was one of the things that was brought up there. Okay, we're trying to do that for around $500,000, but we're trying to get that done, that part. Okay? One of the other things that came up, and I want you to know we're not ignoring it, the drop-off. You've all seen the drop-off. You've all probably been in the drop-off. It's irritating. Okay? Especially if you get stuck on, it's School Street, right? And you're not going anywhere from, basically from 245 to 330, you're there. Okay? That's a concern to us, the safety of it, all of that. What became a concern to us also was it's a little bit of a money trap because we don't know for sure how we're going to fix it. But we want to fix it and we're going to figure out, and the board's committed to fixing it. We've worked together with the city on a grant that now we've got a grant that's been approved that it'll pay for an engineer to design a plan that we can look at and see if we like. Then we'll go to the next step and do it. So don't think we're forgetting it. We're not. We just didn't have a clue as far as what that's going to run. And we didn't even take a guess. Even the architect wasn't comfortable running a guess of where it would be. Could end up being a lot cheaper. A couple people, since they've been hearing me talk about this, have sent me some really great ideas that could fix it maybe economically. So we'll look at those. But that was one of the main things there. The next thing that came up a lot in the priorities was storm shelters. Okay? I'm a Nebraska boy. We don't deal with tornadoes as much as you guys do down here. But most of our buildings, if you didn't know this, don't have storm shelters. So like if there's a tornado drill at the elementary, if you've ever been there for one, there's set places that the kids kind of go everywhere to get to the safest place they can. Okay? Now what happened last year in the spring, when the storm warning came in that there was going to be a big one coming, okay? 50% of our parents came and picked up their kids by 1 o'clock. I don't have a problem with that. Okay? But 50% of our kids stayed, our staff stayed. Okay? I am concerned about all of them. I do want parents to feel like if they want to, their kids can sure stay. Because that's what we'd want. But I would never stop them from coming to get their kids. So what we've looked at is, okay, how do we fix that? How do we take care of that other part? So basically, when you hear me say storm shelter, I'm talking about a concrete box. But it's going to be concrete on all 6 sides. Okay? But now we want to do something with that. We want to make sure that we can add to that and have something in it, a dual purpose. So we're just not spending money just for the storm shelter. So at each place, we made a decision that we want to try to add something in each place. Okay, start with preschool. Some of you say, well, the first time you guys were just going to add a matching preschool 2 years ago. How has this changed? Okay? The concern that I would have had if I was here at the time on adding a matching preschool. Oh, I believe we can put kids in it. There's no doubt. If you haven't seen our preschool, we're happy. We have a lot of kids there. Okay? We could fill another one. What my concern is employees. getting them to be able to staff that. It's a huge concern. We struggle now, okay? But we still need some room to grow with our preschool there. So this storm shelter would be over there, just a little bit off the lake, okay? It would be kind of a flex space or a multi-purpose room, but not a true multi-purpose room as far as we're not putting hoops, we're not making it a gym type thing. It would be an area for that with a couple classrooms in it. And then it would hold everybody. Okay, so everybody could get in there. Plus we would have room for 30% growth in there more camp. One question that's came up to me is, what are our numbers doing when it comes to student enrollment, student growth? Okay, we're running right around 1,800 students right now, from birth to 12th grade, right around there. Some people are saying, is that growing? We're saying about the same, okay? This year we stayed about the same. So far I've been seeing us come up a little, okay? We do gain quite a few kids from other districts, like a lot. Like last year, 350, okay? Of teachers, 140 of them were kids of teachers. Okay, some of you would say, well, I don't know how I feel about using our taxpayer money to pay for all these kids coming in. Okay, that's a legitimate question. So what Kansas does that's interesting is each kid, no matter if they're from out of district or they're from in district, they have a financial value. It's roughly around $5,400 to $5,500 for every kid that comes here. Then each kid is weighted based on their needs. Whether it's transportation, it's special education, it's free and reduced, it's all those things. Then it adds it up, it's like a 1.1, 1.2. So any kid that comes here, if they're here on September 20th, we're receiving at least $5,500 for them. Okay, so just remember that as you go through that part. Now, are their parents paying taxes? Yeah, in a different district, but not here. That's one of those things to remember. That's how it's set up. In Nebraska, totally different. Okay, so that's how we were set up on those numbers. Okay, back to what we were talking about on the elementary. Okay, that's pretty close to what we would do on the elementary as far as safe and secure. On your sheet, it shows them better for you. Okay, now let's talk middle school. Okay, middle school, we're going to add a safe and secure entrance there also. That one and the high school are going to be fairly easy to do. Okay, at the high school, one of our concerns is, okay, where do we put a storm shelter? Middle school. Where do we put a storm shelter? Okay, and then some would say, hey, you should put it on the east side, make it into locker rooms for the stadium, all of that. I don't know if that's our best needs for us or what we need educationally. Okay, the last time that they did this bond issue, the state gives some money based on what percent of your project is considered education. My understanding is I heard last time when they ran it, they said it was about 80%. So we're going to get 80% of their ratio of how they do it. What their percent is, if somebody talks to you about the past, several years ago, they're going to get, it says to be 23%. Someone will say, well, 23% of $20 million? 23% of what? 23% of your principal and interest payments the first year. Then they're going down. So if your principal and payments were around $2 million, okay, take 23% of that, you're roughly around 400 and some thousand is going to come to it. The next year it was down to 20. Ours is going to start down around 10%. Okay, and then work its way over 6 years, the state is doing away with this. You'll see some of our money that John will show you in a little bit, like in 2015 or 16, that was the time in Kansas to build. The state was given like 66% of your interest and principal during that time, and we still have some that have fit during that. Okay? So then as far as our numbers go, I see our numbers growing. People seem to like it here. They seem to be coming in. That's kind of what our numbers have been. I don't see anything to believe that it's coming down from what I've seen on our enrollment and where we're at. We're running just about anywhere from 100 to 150 to 160 per grade level is where we're running. Our preschool and all that is full. And so is our kids full. Okay, back to the middle school. Okay, on the middle school, what we decided is, for now, we can change all this. But right now we're planning on the west side where the multi-purpose room is. We're going to put a big room there. It would be the storm shelter. It would also be a big flex room that you can have like all the 6th grade in there at once. We don't have a room like that now. All the 7th grade, all the 8th grade, a room like that with some storage, possible classrooms there. That's what would happen at the middle school. We'll also take a look at our HVAC, all of those things. Okay, let's jump to the high school. Okay, high school here is where we're planning on spending most of the money, or at least half. Okay, the high school, since it was built, hasn't received a whole lot of love. Okay, I feel like they've done a decent job of cleaning it, but that's been one of my concerns from the get-go, and I'll talk about that a little more in a second. So at the high school, here's what we want to do. Renovate most of it, most classrooms, most hallways, in here. Okay, do a complete redo of in here for the most part. What we need: curtains, audio-visual, sound, seating, stage, that type of thing. Okay, just so you know how responsible the board's been on this, is the architects came in, and we all know they want to spend money because they make more money. They wanted to spend $2.75 million to basically gut this and start off. No. What we're looking at is doing is trying to spend somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million. And some of you are going to say that's still a lot. I've been fortunate enough to build 2 other auditoriums. When you get into curtains are at least $150,000. Lights, minimum $100,000, you're going to push $250,000. Seating, you're going to push $150,000. Sound, you're going to push $150,000. Is what you're going to do those things well. So that's what so you understand that part. Okay, we really want to redo our family and consumer science room because we would love to do more culinary art type stuff. That's one of the rooms, our science rooms. Most of our rooms, most of our hallways we want to redo. Okay? Next thing is storm shelter here. Okay, storm shelter we want to add on right back here. And we want to put the storm shelter that would have a weight room, wrestling room in it, and an addition to the band room is what it would have. It also serve as our storm shelter. Yes, it would fit everybody, is what it would do. Then we would figure out what to do with our other rooms that were left. Like the wrestling room upstairs would probably stay there because, in case you didn't know, wrestling's popular here. And also girls wrestling's getting very popular. That would fit that well also. The room down on the auxiliary gym we'll have to put some thought into. That's kind of the fun thing about doing this project is we still have time to think about some things and do some things. We can't do what's outside of what we put on the ballot and the question, but we can fit those things. Okay? So we went through, the next thing we looked at was, okay, do we need to do anything outside? Okay? We discussed the softball field. If you don't know this, we currently share with the city the softball field over there. All right? I've talked to the city to see if we put a softball field here, how they would feel. They weren't concerned about it. They were more concerned about opening our playground up. They would sure like to see the city people have access to our playground outside of school hours. And I've heard that it's kind of that way before COVID, that kind of thing. We can make it so it would be secure if we choose to do that. We can play well with others. We don't have a problem if we need to do that. Okay? On the softball field, it would be right out here. It would be turnkey, ready to go. Okay, the other thing that we talked about too was doing a practice field that would be turf. Softball field would be all turf. Practice field would be turf. It would be for soccer, band, PE, youth sports, football, you name it, we would do it all. Okay, so well, what's wrong with the grass out there? I had the fortunate thing to mow out there this year. I got to do that sometime, okay? For whatever reason, whether we didn't, and I'll talk about this in a second, deferred maintenance. We haven't taken very good care of that. It's really rough. The grass died, came back in clumps. It is very rough. I'm surprised that we don't have more incidents happen out there with the stuff we do out there. So that would be our 2 things outside. Okay, so the next thing I want to bring up is, okay, you just talked about deferred maintenance and taking care of things. That's huge to me. We have to do, and I feel like we're trying to, we're starting on it now, to take care of what we have. And the unfortunate thing is, that takes money. But you have to go to plan it. So in our deferred maintenance, the board's committed out of capital outlay to commit so much money a year to each topic. So like we want to spend so much money on floors, so much money on paint, so much money on roofs, so much money on turf, so much money on HVAC. getting it so we have a plan of what we need to do so we don't get behind again. It's frustrating to get behind. You shouldn't do that. We owe more to the taxpayer and ourselves to do that. So that's one of the things that when you hear us talk about deferred maintenance, that's what we're trying to do. And that's why if you have been here and you've seen me helping clean, helping doing things, I need to know what's going on. I need to know what we're not doing, what needs fixed, all those things. So that's part of it. We're trying to get better, and we will. So don't think that, hey, if we do this, they're not going to take very good care of it. Oh, we are. We're going to take a lot of pride in that, just like we're going to take pride. Even if this doesn't pass, we're still going to take pride in the stuff that we have, and we're going to start fixing things. That has to happen for us. So that's a lot of what we have going there. I want to take a quick look to see how I'm doing on time. So I promised you guys a certain amount of time. Okay, a couple minutes before I turn it over to John to look at some of his stuff. Okay? On it, the biggest thing that I need you to know is our focus has been safety and security. That's been one of the things when we first came here. Okay, we started by adding a SRO, so now we have two. If you didn't know this, we have our own police department. It's a USD 394 police department I inherited. And we have two officers in there, named Deshaun Smith and Officer Jessica Stars. Okay, they're doing a good job. That's one place that's helped us on security. These are some other steps that we can take as far as helping them. And some people even talk about safety. Well, playground, how do you say in safety? Well, we're going to fix our fences around the intermediate. You can put safety as far as the turf goes, not that safe. You look at our as far as our football field, our practice field, soccer field, all of that, currently not that safe just because of how rough it is. Not crazy about our kids having to get over to the softball field in the corner. Don't really want to spend money on a field over there that's awesome, but we don't own. So that has been kind of our priorities as when we looked at things. Okay? So I kind of hit the things there. Now what we're going to jump to, and I'll gladly break it down if you broke down more. We're going to talk about the finances. We'll jump to there a little bit. John does a great job of this. We'll jump to his slide. One of the things that the board talked about, okay, so many times that I think school districts get into this, they decide to plan a budget and not budget a plan. Okay, so whether you agree with what we're doing or not, what the board did was they put a plan together. They put a plan that they thought most people could maybe be comfortable with. And then they said, well, now can we budget that plan? Well, here's a plan that they felt like we can budget, that we can fit. Yeah, it's a lot of money. We're asking a lot from the taxpayer. But that has been our idea from the get-go is can we budget this plan? And now John's going to talk to you a little bit about how we can budget the plan.
So I get just
Space Mark. Yep.
Okay. Well, my name again is John Haas. I'm with Branson Financial Group out of Wichita, Kansas. I married a Rose Hill girl in 1982. Started my profession in 84, and then moved to the Rose Hill School District in 87. So I'm not a native, but I'm a long timer to the Rose Hill School District. The purpose of a financial advisor is to structure a bond financing that best fits the needs and cash flow of the school district. So when Chuck asked me to join him to work on these things, we first had to look at the outstanding debt of the school district. Currently, there is two bond issues outstanding. The Series 2017 actually pays off in September of 25. Chuck mentioned earlier about when state aid was much higher than it is now. Currently, the state pays 66% of that. So we certainly didn't want to pay that off any sooner than we have to because of the state aid would not pay for the early redemption of that. Second bond issue is a Series 2018 bond issue. $9,580,000 with that is outstanding. It gets less than 5% state aid. It pays off in September 2030. So when we look at cash flow, we have to structure our cash flow around these two bond issues. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how we came up with the structure of the 2018 bond issue, it created a difficulty in trying to figure out how to keep taxes levied, the taxes level, because of that bond issue. So and we'll get more into that in just a minute. Proposed bond issues for an amount not to exceed $19,995,000. If you haven't voted already, that's what the ballot question is going to be. Will you authorize, as electors of the Rose Hill School District, to allow the district to issue bonds in amount of $19,995,000 not to exceed? Negligible state aid, there's not very much, maybe $400,000. Now, my dad would say, are you woofing at 400,000? Well, when you're borrowing 20 million almost, it's just not very material. Pays off September 2040. One of the good things that the school district has done is kept its debt short with that. So this one was just 15 years. So not very long, given that a lot of districts I'm working with, let me see, a community college now is trying to do borrowing for 30 years. So that you're not extending that. Interest rates are still great, not as great as they used to be. Community college called me the other day to look at some of their existing stuff, and I can't believe that we were issuing debt during the financial crisis for 20 years at 1.5%. But 4 is great. I was teasing that if I ever went to a meeting and the elected officials were complaining about 4%, I was just going to smack them. And it just, you know, when I came to Rose Hill, I don't know, in '87, my mortgage rate was 17%. So it's what you're used to, I guess. Estimated bond and interest mill levy for the fiscal years 26 through 31. Remember, the 18 bond issue pays in September of 30, that's a 31 fiscal year. So what we devised, the plan is to keep the mill levy around 17 mills. The last mill levy for the current budget was 17 mills. So if you own a market value house, your taxes are $198 for 17 mills. With that, through paying off the 31 bond issue, because of the unique structure that was created, the taxes will go up a little bit, about $3 a year. Now you hear me saying the taxes are going to go up a little bit. We're not talking about mill levies going up or going down. Used to be the goal of the district was to create a level mill levy structure. My advice when I came in is, let's not look at level mill levy, let's look at level taxes. I don't know about you guys, but my valuation has gone up 14 and 15%. Mill levy stays the same, your taxes went up 14 and 15%. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I came in and got in there. So let's talk about level taxes and not level mill levy. So what we're looking at about it, the way we're structuring it, 198 to 215. And then after that, maybe taxes can come down with that, but we gotta get through 2031 first. Ooh,
Chuck did a bad job on that.
Okay.
But they do have it on their sheet.
Okay.
Which on mine right in front of you if you want.
Okay. Now I can do this in my hand.
Okay.
So, let's just round. If a $100,000 market value home, taxes are 200, okay? So if it's a 200,000 home, $200,000 home, excuse me, I still don't talk very well. It's about $400 a year for bond and interest. Now, we're not talking about this bond issue, we're talking about all 3 bond issues combined. So if you have a $200,000 home, market value taxes for the financing, this and the existing debt would be about $400 a year. I looked up on Zillow. I was amazed. The average market value of a house in Rose Hills is about $265,000. So the average taxes would be about $500 for bond issues for that. So what somebody suggested and what Chuck created was, okay, we start with 100,000 as our baseline. If your house is worth 4 times the 100,000, just multiply the 200 by that amount. So, can't think of anything else. Oh, one of the other things that we came in and visited with the district about is if there is a future need for the district, and I'm not saying there is, because we haven't talked to the board about it, but there always seems to be needs for local units of government. We designed this bond issue that if there is a need 10 years from now to come back again, if the board decides there is, we're going to keep taxes down with that. We're going to continue to try to do a level tax levy, level tax payment, not level tax levy. So if you see your valuations going up, for example, somebody asked me, well, what if valuations go down? Your taxes stay the same. No levy goes up, taxes stay the same. What if the valuations go high? The levy goes down, taxes stay the same. So we're trying to get into that mindset. So I am here. We'll let Chuck finish up. If you have any questions for me, I'll stick around and be more than happy to answer those for you.
Thank you, John. What I liked when John came in is John had the concern that a lot of people do. Well, yes, I want what's best for the kids, but I also know how much I'm paying in taxes already. So John and I sat down for several hours, a couple days, and just talked about it. Because we both want the same thing. Okay, I want what's best for kids, and I also want what's best for the taxpayer. John wants that too, so he gave me some ideas of how we can make that happen, and I'm pretty excited that we have that opportunity with them. And where it's a little different that I've noticed coming into Kansas when it comes to taxes and that. Okay? You guys are educated. Here's where it's different. Like if you would say where I came from, mill levies staying the same, everybody would say taxes staying the same. That's what everybody would say. That's not the truth. People in Kansas, at least in Rose Hill, understand that mill levy flat, that's all fine, but that doesn't mean my taxes are going up or down. Okay? It depends what you do on the valuation. So if your house stays flat, which it won't, we all know, but if it does, your valuation, then your taxes aren't going to change. But what we've tried to do is to protect you, so if it does go up a lot, then we're not asking for that full amount. So like your taxes go up, your valuation goes up 6%. Okay? I don't want to be asking for 6% when it comes to the building part. Okay? I want to be able to keep it closer to that 1.5% that's there, so it can be a modest thing if your house does that. I know we're all stressed. So that was one of our things. And some here will also say, you're saying that our taxes are going to be lower. Well, you're not telling about the back end. Okay? The back end, we're currently going to be done about what, 2030, 2031. Okay? This will keep it the same, but it's going to add it for 10 years. With that, I'm sorry, as stuff comes up with keeping buildings going, facilities going, it'll get at, if this one fails, I'm not saying by me, but it'll get asked again. It will come again with that. But that's why the board's being proactive too and saying, well, hey, we got to get ahead of this a little bit. We got to start doing some stuff on deferred maintenance. So it's just not all at once. Can we do that? And then, yeah, we can do that. So we're trying to figure out how to do that. So that's what we've been doing on that part. Okay? Now what we're going to do, I'm going to give you a chance. And then what I'll probably do is, if I don't think everybody can hear you, I'll repeat it. All that I ask is when you take your turn, that you just say, I have a question or I have a comment. If you have a comment, we're going to be respectful and we're going to respect your comment and we're not even going to worry about your comment, whether it's good or bad. If it's a question, we're going to try to answer. If we can, either John or I will. Okay. Questions or comments we have? Yes, Jason?
I got a question. On the level of tax rate that you're planning, isn't that dependent on each of the school board members at the time each year in the future?
Well, by state law, a current governing body cannot commit future decisions to them except for bond issues and the fact that they are required to levy an amount sufficient enough to pay principal and interest on debt service. You can legally bind future boards for that purpose. What we're trying to establish as a goal is that the district doesn't tax or levy more than it needs for that debt service. So if you see amazing increase in valuations like we have over the past couple of years, then the mill levy can go down. And then the taxes paid will actually stay the same. If the board decided that they were wanting to tax, levy more than what they need to collect for debt service, then I guess it's up to the citizens to go to that budget hearing and ask them why to do that. So, Jason, I can't guarantee you that in future boards, what their decisions are gonna be made. But by statute, I know if they have $1 of debt service, they have to levy $1. Less or more than that, it's hard to say with that. But what we're trying to do is set a new tone for the district that we're not gonna levy any more than we need for such purpose.
Is it true as of now, if the tax valuation goes up, if the school board wants to assess that much value, then they have to have a special meeting each year to approve that assessment, correct? Otherwise, they have to lower the mill levy to keep it flat?
I'm sorry, say that again, Jason.
If the county evaluation goes up,
Okay,
say 15%,
okay.
the school can't just accept that money without having a special board meeting to accept that money. They legally every year they have to lower the mill levy to keep the taxes flat right now, right? But they can have a special meeting to accept the evaluation increase.
Well, I'm not an attorney.
I can get that one.
You want?
I think basically you're talking about the revenue neutral rate, right?
Yes.
Okay, so he's basically asking, do they have to have a special meeting or vote? You are correct, yes. To go over the revenue neutral rate, and what that is, the same tax asking as a year ago. So you're dead on. And you had a great question on your first one. On that is one of the things that kind of concerned some people my first year here was, for the first time ever, I dropped 11. Everybody's like, what are you doing? I said, look at valuation. I mean, you have to look at it. We shouldn't be after more than we need to operate. We shouldn't be after that. So that's one of our goals. Do you have any more questions, Jason?
Yeah, well, a comment and a question on
Okay.
the safe entrances. I'm totally for the safe entrances. My question is, will the doors be accessible during like drop off and pickup times? Like say at the high school, when you start school, are they all gonna be funneled through the office, or will there be other doors accessible during a certain amount of time?
I've been at three different schools where we've done it different. On the high school, I'll take what the principal and assistant principals say they want to do it. I see at the elementary, no, funnel them straight through. High school, it's gonna be kind of what they want for operations, what they think is the most safe way to do it. All three schools I've been have done it all three different. I've kind of listened to the principals.
Good, thank you.
Yep. Other questions, comments? Yes?
Is there any talk about metal detectors?
Yeah. Great question on metal detectors, okay? In our current plan, we don't have those built into their budget, but it is on our money. Every time, an example would be every time that there's a school shooting, thank God somewhere else, the SROs and I sit down and say, okay, what could have prevented that? Okay? Would it have been metal detectors? Would it have been bulletproof windows? What would it have been to go through? So we're constantly looking. One of the questions that I was asked by today by a phone call, which was, or email, excuse me, was a great question. They said, isn't there a safe and secure grant out there that you could maybe be getting that for all of your entrances and you wouldn't have to hit the taxpayer up for them, okay? We have used that grant for vape detectors. We have used it for cameras. We just added AED machines for them, okay? There is a limit and it is matching funds. There's no way we would receive a substantial enough amount from that grant that it would cover. Okay? But to answer your question, there's no plan on metal detectors, but we're very open to it. And if we needed to use something like the Safe and Secure grant, we could look at doing that for that. Great question. Other questions, comments? Yes?
Is there anything in the proposed budget for mental health services or counseling
What an awesome question. Because she went right to the point of we've got to be looking at mental health. We've got to look at that mental health part. And Dr. McFerrin, I know this is kind of hitting you off guard, but you want to tell them a little bit about what you've been doing the last 6 months on mental health?
Yeah, we put a behavioral liaison, behavioral health liaison that is funded by through a matching grant through the state. They just transferred the grant from KSDE to KDADS, which is the Department of Disabilities and Aging. And we actually repurposed the old middle school office. That was an unused space. And so now we have an office in that space for our social worker and our behavioral health liaison. Part of that grant pays for a mental health therapist that is in our district 2 days a week, and she meets with students that are on her caseload and provides some therapy services in the schools for those students. And then we used one of the big, larger rooms in that space for a meeting room for our counseling team. We have monthly meetings with South Central Mental Health, and then our counseling team meets there monthly as well. And so we're trying to create, just like you were saying, kind of a community space and a school space where people can go if they do need mental health services. So we have that space available for families. So
And I wanna-
we don't have it exactly the way that we want it yet, but we really are good path for that.
And to answer your question flat out, no, nothing in this bond specifically for that. We feel like we're reaching it in different ways. Mental health is so huge. The last couple schools I've been at, we brought in LMPHs right away. Here, we're fortunate to have such a draw of what we're doing. I mean, you hit it right at it. If we want to stop what's going on, that's the first place we got to look. You know, my dad told me back in the day to rub mud on my emotions. That didn't work. So we're still trying to adjust, but great question. Other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
I have a question about how long it would take to implement if the bond passed. Would the safe entrances be in place by next year, or do you have is that something?
Great question. He wants to know how fast can I get things going? I love it. That's right down my alley. Okay? On that, couple things. Okay, with it. On the way it works, I've been fortunate enough to build 2 other schools before. Okay? First thing is the architects are going to, and I know most of you know this, but what they're going to want to do is they're going to basically want 5 months, 4 to 5 months to do drawings, to get it all put together. Then they want to do the pricing with the construction manager, get that figured out. Okay? There's a couple things though that we want to save us some money. Okay? So when the architect's involved in it, they're going to get a cut. When the construction manager's involved, they're going to get a cut. Okay? And I promise I'll get to your real question. But on those steps, okay, what we want to do is, are there places that we can take them out of it? Okay, one of the places we can take the architect out and the CM is the outside facility. Softball field and all that, we can have somebody else come in, we can get going right away. I said, well, so you're making that a priority? No. What I'm talking about is things that we can get done in a hurry and get on fast. Okay? I'm with you on the safe and secure entrances. Now to me, from what I've seen of the drawings, I'm going to tell you that we have them done by next year easy. Okay? But I do believe from what I saw, and that I can't see why we can't do some of that construction during the school year because we're talking doors. And if we can choose and we can get it going faster, I want to do it faster. So to answer your question, easily by next fall, that's going to be up and going, your safe and secure entrances. Okay? As far as what we can do right away at the outside, I really want our seniors to feel part of what we do. I would love to have the outside stuff done by April 1st. I've got a group that says they can. Okay? Now you go to the high school. High school to me has to be a big part of the focus in the summer besides the safe and secure entrances because the kids aren't here. So we got to go at it. So I get unreasonable on time frames. I don't know if you're like that or not. I do. ideally, I want as much done as we possibly can by when we start the next year. I want everything done by when we start 2026. And I want the safest things done as soon as we can.
Pretty aggressive, but I mean, optimistic. How about optimistic?
Yes.
But, okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you feel pretty certain that if the bond issue passes, your capital improvement funding, you won't be needing money in 10 or 15 years just to do routine maintenance, but you will stay ahead of the game, so to speak?
Great question.
And I understand cost of everything, you have no idea where it's gonna be 10, 15 years.
Yep. I do think this board, and for the people I've talked to here, if the board ever changes, is open to a plan where this amount of money is going, so we don't get in that situation you're talking about. So we can actually spend, roughly in our capital outlay, we gain about $2 million a year. And then a certain amount of that goes into expenses. I would like to see that, like we talk on deferred maintenance. You know, is it 100 and 150,000 for HVAC? Is it that we know each year? And if we don't spend it that year, then we carry it over, and then we add another 150 again, so we have 300. I've visited several schools where they can't pass a bond issue. So that's how they pay for things. They keep adding it up, they list their priorities, and then they keep adding it up so that they can do it. Goodland, Kansas is a prime example of it. Can't pass a bond issue. But they're doing a lot of new things at their school. The board chooses the priorities, and then they start adding their money up. Might be 6, 7 years from now, but they're doing it. And if we can't pass this bond issue, then that tells me we got to look at something creative like that. Because that'll be 2 failures in 2 years. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Yes.
It's a question. I don't know if you said, but is HVAC included in these? I know last year we had several days we couldn't have school because the heater couldn't keep up with our buildings. Is that included?
HVAC's going to be part of it, but we're going to spend it out of capital outlay and get it done either way. So it's not going to be as much specifically done in it on the bond issue as we're just going to do it in capital outlay, because I don't want another time like that.
Okay.
That was bad.
It was bad.
It was bad.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Other questions, comments? Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming in. Before you, yeah, I'm sorry, Leslie, go ahead.
Will you expand a little bit on the deferred maintenance and where the early childhood center might fall into that?
Okay. Leslie, you want to tell a little bit of what you do with the early childhood? For those that don't know?
Sure, I'm the Parents Teachers Coordinator, and we serve your Roseville families that have children birth until kindergarten age. We serve them with home visits, group connections, events, and things. You'll probably hear a lot more about us soon, because I just found out last week we earned the Blue Ribbon status. So I'll probably hopefully come to the board meeting in December to share more about that. And then we're the group that earned a grant that put the story walk, or is putting the story walk around the pond. But serve those, our priority is serving home visits for families with little ones. And then we do have a lot of group connections at the old Stoll Library. So people that have been here for 30, 40 years, you'll know what that building is, but the old school library is where we're located. So we have concerns in not being part of the bond issue as far as the primary 3 buildings. We, of course, would like some attention
Oh, yeah.
on our building and wonder where that falls into place.
Yeah, great question. On the deferred maintenance, what I really like is it gives us options for certain places. And I know we haven't got a chance to sit down and do a whole lot there. What I do believe, though, is if you're going to have a program, you better treat it right and figure out what's going to work. So, do I see some improvements coming that way, or in a different way of figuring out, is that your best location? Is that the best location? I was sitting down and figuring it out, so yes, I could see us doing part of that. I also want to commend you on, if you haven't been around the lake lately, and she's talking about the story walk, they've already started putting the things that you can read the story on. So if you haven't been over there. But to answer your question, yeah, I would gladly take a close look at where it fits. To me, it fits in our district. We need it. We got to figure out what we do to help that building. Yes, sir. Ron.
Yes,
capital outlay, that's sometimes kind of understood, it's hard to understand what you can use capital outlay for, and, are we gonna have projects that are gonna be outside of the bond itself that we can manage, smaller projects?
Ron's question was about capital outlay, about how that works. Okay, capital outlay, each year, this board can levy 8 mills. Okay, and then there is also some state aid that comes in for the 8 mills on it, so that adds it up. Okay, you can use it for a lot of things. You can use it for some employment, you can use it for projects. Okay, this district used it a couple of years ago when they built the shop. Okay, they did use it out of that fund for that. As far as, are we gonna do some other projects out of that, out of there? Yes. One example would be, we're gonna have to figure out how to do that drop off. Okay, that's gonna probably come out of capital outlay unless we can find the grants. We wanna find the grants. That would be one example. Another example that's been brought up is when we add the softball field and we add the baseball field, okay, do we need bathrooms out there in concessions? Okay, that's one place. I've heard some creative ideas and some fun ideas of what we can do there. So are we just going to stop and not do some other things? No, we're gonna try to. I don't see us though, if it passes, taking a loan or a lease purchase. I see us using funds we have. I don't see us going more in debt for that reason. Great question, Rob. Anybody else? Sure appreciate you coming tonight. If you want to stop in, I do have something for you. All it is a little coin that has a rocket on it, and it says, remember to vote November 5th. So if you want one, stop up. I'll be at the back door to meet you. I'm so glad you came tonight.
Thank you.